somewhat unique in that it has a single ratepayer that's so significant. Well, I mean, you're pretty significant to ITC as well. So there's an opportunity to have dialogue with them and see if there's something that could be mutually agreeable that works for both communities.
The bad part about that is they use roughly 82% of the water that's pumped. And when you get into that kind of number, and then we're going to put forth construction and infrastructure and bills that will potentially provide them with more water, yet they've opted to not participate in the construction costs, but 2 or 3 years from now, they're going to benefit from those construction costs. I find a problem with that.
They're limited by contract on the amount of water they can get.
I'm talking construction. I'm talking construction. They've indicated, and like I said, one Board of Works member told me that they've indicated that they're not going to pay anything for construction.
They're going to fund the bonds to a higher percentage based on, because they're a ratepayer.
That's their rates, and that's their consumption. I'm talking about the actual construction.
Well, they are any other ratepayer. There isn't, you can't pass an ordinance that would obligate them to make a contribution towards construction any less than you can pass an ordinance and require you. So we're stuck within what's allowed by statute. So the way that works is we have to recover the cost of construction through the rates. What the mayor and Patty were talking about is this project, as important to them as any other ratepayer and any other customer in the city, maybe more so.
But where are they? Why aren't they here? Well, I'd like to hear from them.
So there's an opportunity to have a dialogue with them to discuss different things that go beyond what can be covered in the rate ordinance. But there's nothing that says they have to talk about it. There's nothing that says they have to sign anything.
No.
But
a lot of this is extra water that they're going to benefit from. So, I mean,
I don't think I know. It's not extra water. You are making sure you can provide the amount of water that you're obligated to provide to them and all the rest of the ratepayers.
And we're doing that.
It's not extra water.
Right, but we're doing that.
And their bill will be used to pay debt service on this bond issue, just like everyone else's bill will be used to pay debt service on this bond issue.
Yeah, I've
So they
that.
are paying for construction, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think
their revenues are being used.
right.
What I think the mayor was talking about was, what if they leave? Then then what are we gonna do? And that is a fly in the ointment in many instances where you have a large corporation or a large factory, large whatever, in a community, and they make up a big chunk of that. And even if you would get them to sign on the dotted line that says we'll pay rates for 35 years even if we leave after 20 years, it's only as good as their credit worthiness, if you will. And if you would think they would only be leaving if things went south. And so just you're not alone in this instance, but for them to be willing to talk about it and have conversation and realize an economic benefit that they are getting because their water supply is now being more stable, if you will, more guaranteed, if you will, less risky, that helps their business. So engaging a conversation to say, we think you should help us contribute, help us somehow in this, would not be unreasonable.
Right. I think it'd be good leadership to ask them to participate in the construction costs, far and above their rate paying.
Is that permissible with the
Anybody is allowed to make a contribution to the city. There's nothing in the statute that would make you, put you in a position to compel them to do it.
No.
If they did make a contribution, they may look at it as a contribution to buy their rate down, which.
You'd have to be very clear.
I would think,
They'll-
if I was them, I would do that.
They'll be
I mean,
crystal
we're
clear
talking-
on what they want.
They'll be,
They'll be crystal clear on what they want.
Yeah.
As John alluded to, if they put capital money in, it's likely that they're gonna wanna buy down their rate.
It's good business.
They'll have,
It's gonna be good for both sides.
I don't know. It'll,
They're paying $1 million for water a year, they may wanna say, hey, we'll chip in $3 million. Council chip in some money and we can make this thing work, and our rates go down. Sometimes, 4% money, they may have some money sitting around there, and they say, we don't get 4% on it. It could work well for them.
Discussion we can have with them. I mean, we've talked before with IPC about putting money forward, as opposed to paying it all in rates. All indications were that
They don't do
rates
that.
were the way that they wanted to
Right.
do it.
That's their property.
anything else before we open the hearing? It's been really about PER details. Anything else before we close the hearing? Matt's been taking copious notes of the questions. We'll have responses. You heard what the responses are. He'll document this, and that gets submitted to IDEM and the SRF as part of the hearing and the answer to the comments. So, any other questions? Going once, going twice? Hearing is now closed.
Works for me.
Yep, I'm good.
Good.
7:53 p.m.
And one last thing on that, we passed around a sheet to sign. If you came in a little bit later, just let's make sure. Is there anyone that did not get a chance to sign it? If you would please sign that before you take off, that would be great.
I'll sign these two guys.
Sure.
Okay.
Depends on what you guys want to do. It is 8 o'clock. We've been here for 2.5 hours. We could talk about guaranteed savings contracts on Tuesday. Imagine that council meeting and probably the rest of them until we're done with this would be long council meetings, but it could be something that we talk about Tuesday, or if you want, Mr. Brand could give a brief synopsis of guaranteed
Go
savings.
really fast. 10 minutes.
How does the council desire to proceed?
It's probably cheaper for you to do it now than it is later.
Shake back there. You don't pay. So, let me pass these out to those of you behind the table. Yeah, that should have been in your packets, but I know you have a thick packet.
Yeah. 100 something.
So, you want me to wait? I'll drink sooner. Yeah. Okay. For those of you, what we're going to talk about at this point is project delivery. Really exciting stuff on how projects are built. If you want to stay, you can. Don't feel obligated. Here's the way for Mr. Seward.
We're just going to say 10 minutes or less.
Yeah. I'll look. It's beyond me. Thank you.
Yeah, there are a
My
couple
brain
extras.
is dead, yeah.
Somebody back to Matt, what you like. Somebody else will look at that one.
You can have it anyway.
Oh, thanks.
You want one?
Sure. That's-
Sure.
I barely read that. Two words on it.
It's big print, though. Look at the big
That's
print
good,
on it.
and I
That's-
appreciate that one.
There's plenty of pictures, too.
Oh, good.
There you go.
We're buying a boat?
Yeah. It's in here too.
That's how we get the water now.
Ah,
Dan McCain would love to have one of them on the canal. As soon as Mr. Seward returns, we'll start.
I don't think it's gonna work.
Said he was.
Yeah.
a slide.
I would.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wastewater.
Oh. That can't be good.
You gotta have-
for sliding.
All right, I'm starting my clock. Let's see how I do. What we want to do is give you a high-level overview of a type of project delivery that we think makes a lot of sense for this particular project. Details of construction, how we go about it. So we're going to talk about why guaranteed savings. BFS and has significant experience with guaranteed savings projects. There's a large number of guaranteed savings providers in the state of Indiana. This is something that's relatively new, but it's not brand new. And then the financial arrangements and why it makes sense for City of Delphi. High level, that's what we're going to hit on. This slide that you see here, it's got the boat, the little boat and the big boat. The little boat is the original contract. The big boat is change orders. Carolyn mentioned about change orders on projects, and how that's a pain for.
Yeah, it's called change order.
It is, so that's some contractor out there that, that's how his story. So traditionally, flip the page, what we generally do in the construction industry has been design, bid, build projects, okay? Guaranteed savings is an alternate delivery method different than design, bid, build projects. This slide here shows that you get involved with the owner, the engineer starts working on plans and specs, the contractor and the project are figured out later when the contractor is not initially involved. That's the downside to design build projects. Guaranteed, flip the page, guaranteed savings is a very collaborative process. Typically on a design bid build, you would engage our firm as the engineer. We would work really hard for 6 to 12 months doing the final plans and specs, and then that all gets handed over to the contractor and they submit their low bid. The contractor has no input during that process, and they're going to build this thing. So guaranteed savings is a much more collaborative process, and the city being the owner, Butler Fairman is your engineer, and the owner provider, your provider you select, are working together from the get-go on your project rather than waiting until we receive bids. Why would guaranteed savings project make sense for the city? This slide gives a little bit more information of, you can see the progression on the project on the bottom axis, the value of the project on the vertical axis. The sooner that we get a contractor involved, the more that we can take into account. We're engineers, we're very good at doing design and getting the permitting. Contractors are great at building them. We need to marry those two abilities early on in the project. So you can see the highest potential to increase value on a project, and work with the owner to determine what value is. Having the contractor involved at that time helps get a better answer for the owner. If we wait till the end, you see where traditional contractor involvement, there between the green and gray, that line dips down. We're just not able to take advantage of the contractor's knowledge and also a better understanding of cost. We know sooner when we get the contractor involved. Carol, on this next slide, flip the page, is the answer to your question. If you look at projects have a particular value, cost, a particular value and cost. Design, bid, build, it's lowest, responsible, and responsive bidder. You get that number, and then what happens a lot of times? I'm not going to say every time, but
Change orders.
yeah, so if you do one of those projects and your change order number is 3%, that's darn good. If it's 15%, you're not happy. But that's going to happen on design, bid, build. That's just how that process works. You can see with guaranteed savings, the provider submits a guaranteed maximum price. They identify a contingency that goes with that. And that final line in there is what the project cost is. So very simply, in design, bid, build, you have a low number and you work up to a ceiling or the project value. With guaranteed savings, you set a ceiling and you work down below that. It is the difference between the two delivery methods. And they're very collaborative. It's not an engineer working for 6 months and turning the pile of drawings over. We've got a couple slides that follow there. That's, as I said, this is, it's been about a decade that this has been widely recognized as a delivery method for water and wastewater projects. You can see a number of projects projects that our firm has had involvement with throughout the state. We've also got some, the biggest one that we worked on was up in Lafayette, the Durkee's Run project, Teal Road, going out on the east side of town. That was $32 million guaranteed savings project. We've also done them as low as $1.5 million to $2 million. More particular to this project, this is a drinking water project that we're working on. So some of the examples that we've listed there in Plainfield, Lebanon, we've done a series of guaranteed savings projects in Lebanon. I would say that number in Lebanon now has exceeded $5 million for their water utility on the guaranteed savings projects they've done. Matt, when was the first SRF project that was guaranteed savings? Was that 5 or 6 years ago? Okay.
Probably getting closer to 7 or 8, but yeah.
I'm getting old, so if I say 5, yeah. So it's closer to a decade that SRF has recognized guaranteed savings. So that this won't be an issue if we move forward on the project for them to say, what about this guaranteed savings? They've approved multiple projects, water and wastewater with guaranteed savings. Let's skip past the public safety and the roadway improvements. That's not what we're doing here, but that's a point that makes that this can be done for any type of infrastructure improvements, not just water and wastewater. If you flip to this slide here that has current Indiana providers, the point of that to show you that this is a competitive process on the selection, and there's many providers that will be interested in being your provider for this project. The ones in the blue, those are self-performing. Those are contractors that'll come out here and mostly build it themselves, okay? Bowen Engineering, Amoresco, Wilhelm, Kokosi, those teaming. They would build your project for a design bid build as well, but they also do guaranteed savings projects. Other providers that are listed here, those would be maybe more like a broker for a project that would be the provider, but then they would come and hire someone to do the construction. All of these entities have to be approved to deliver guaranteed savings by the Secretary of State. They submit information, they get approved, there's documentation that goes along with guaranteed savings projects that the Secretary of State has to approve of. Competitive process, okay, we're going to get done early. This last thing is the wee thing that the target that it shows there, whether what's most important or value in a project, that can be qualifications or innovation. Example, if you had a project that you did and it was just a fist fight with the contractor and it wasn't a pleasurable experience at all, then you may go on qualifications. How do they administer their job? What's their record on change orders? How will they do their pricing? That's one way you could pick them. Schedule, if that's the most important thing. The project that we listed up there at Purdue on William Street, part of the State Street project, the most important thing was for that project to be completed by Thanksgiving of 2016 so they can start on State Street following that. So the criteria to select that contractor in that case was schedule. They were willing to pay a little bit more for the cost as long as the contractor would guarantee they would meet the schedule. Cost, that can be your most important or the greatest value. That doesn't change if you would like it to be that. You can have some local involvement with contractors if that particular project would fit that. And then obviously you're going to take a really hard look at past performance. And you can drill down a little deeper with guaranteed, a lot deeper with guaranteed savings than you can design, bid, build, responsive, responsible bidder. You can really get into some past performance criteria. Financing arrangements, the provider can finance it, you can lease it, be structured payment. I'm not going to go through all those. I think you've heard from John and Patty on the best way for this project to be funded would be bonds and cash. The bottom two on this delivery method fits that very well. It is flexible enough if you had another provision or another way you wanted to fund it, you could. In this case, it makes sense for bonds and or cash. That is 9 minutes and 10 seconds, so let's say 50 seconds in your life. Any questions? We're recommending this process. The flexibility of it, the fact that it's concurrent design and construction and contractor input are the benefits in this particular case. It's a multi-phase project. Jeff, you got questions?
Been in business 45 years, and you hit the nail on the head. I don't agree with a lot of things you do, but Because what it usually happens is design
You
bid
didn't have to
build.
say that.
Design bid build, when you have a contract somebody that says, I can save you $100,000, by the time he says that, you're already probably got 50,000 engineering fees. You need to get the contractor engaged before you start. That's where I'm at in my business. If they're not engaging me to start, we don't go there, because I know we're wasting money.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's-
surprised that they're willing to do this finally and see, because it saves so much time during the building process, because you have to, questions are answered before you drive the first nail, and my business to do that. And that's the only way to do it if you want to come out ahead.
We think it's the best delivery here. I'll even take it a step further. We're the engineers, Matt, Mike, myself, we would do the plans and specs. The contractor's gonna build it. There's your operator of the water utility
Yeah.
back there. Getting Craig's involvement early on, as we talk about that, in that collaborative process, that's a good thing.
Rather than the end with it. I was in this meeting the other day that save so much money by changing the pipe. By the time they pay to re-engineer the thing, the savings, 75% of savings is gone.
Right.
If you engage them to start with, you don't have to hold up the project, you move things along, and your savings is built in for you.
It's a tool in the process for project delivery. We think it is the best project delivery for this project for city. We wanted you to, at a high level, kind of hear the overview, reasons why we think it is best for the city.
Any other questions, Mr. Brand? Do we have any other comment?
It seems to me like that's just the way it should have been without it being a new program.
It's been well received. The number of projects that are being done. Government doesn't move as fast sometimes as the private sector, but this is a nice addition to what Eunice government can do. Thank you.
Any other council comment? Public comment? Take a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Councilman Shopper, Councilman Stewart, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It is 8:08 PM.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Make everything work.
Better idea anyway. What's going on?